Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the center of the massive chamber aboard Nexus Prime and felt very small. The space station was bigger than any city on Earth and housed the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Above him towered the representatives of a dozen alien species, each one looking down at the human delegation with barely hidden contempt. The air smelled of ozone and strange chemicals that made his nose burn slightly. Captain Lisa Hayes stood beside Morrison, her hands clasped behind her back as she watched the alien council members whisper among themselves in languages that sounded like breaking glass and grinding metal. She had spent 3 years learning to understand their basic trade language, but the complex political discussions happening around them were beyond her skills. What she did understand was the tone, and it was not friendly. The Zephyrian delegate spoke first. Crix Val was a crystalline being that looked like a walking mountain of blue gems, each facet of his body reflecting the chamber's lights in dizzying patterns. When he moved, tiny chimes echoed through the room as his crystal parts rubbed together. His voice sounded like wind blowing through caves when he addressed the human delegation. "We have reviewed your military specifications," Crix Val announced, his words translated by the universal communication system that all council members wore. "Your weapons technology is quite primitive by galactic standards. These railguns you speak of fire simple metal projectiles using magnetic acceleration. How very basic." Morrison felt his jaw tighten, but kept his expression neutral. He had expected this reaction, but it still stung to hear humanity's greatest military achievement dismissed so casually. The railgun systems aboard Earth's warships represented decades of research and development, pushing the boundaries of human engineering to their absolute limits. To these aliens, they were apparently toys. The reptilian Vorthak commander leaned forward from his perch high above the chamber floor. General Theskar was easily 3 meters tall, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor plating. His yellow eyes fixed on Morrison with the intensity of a predator studying prey. When he spoke, his forked tongue flicked out between rows of sharp teeth. "Our plasma cannons can melt through a kilometer of reinforced battle steel in mere seconds," Theskar hissed. "They draw power directly from our ship's fusion cores and can fire continuously for hours without overheating. Your kinetic weapons require massive amounts of energy to accelerate simple slugs to useful velocities. The energy efficiency alone makes them obsolete." A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing the Vorthak plasma weapons in action. Morrison watched as bright green beams cut through massive test targets like hot knives through butter. The demonstration was impressive, he had to admit. The alien weapons could indeed destroy targets that would require multiple railgun hits to eliminate. The insectoid representative clicked her mandibles together in what Morrison had learned was the hive equivalent of laughter. Queen Zack looked like a giant praying mantis crossed with a spider, her multiple arms moving constantly as she gestured. Her compound eyes reflected the chamber lights like tiny mirrors, making it impossible to tell where she was actually looking. Bioorganic. "Weapons are the future of warfare," Zack announced through her translator. "Our living ammunition adapts to enemy defenses, grows stronger as it consumes target materials, and can even reproduce itself inside enemy vessels. Your dead metal slugs can only destroy what they hit directly. Our weapons consume entire ships, from within, and leave nothing but empty hulls floating in space." Another holographic display showed the hive weapons at work. Morrison watched in fascination and horror as what looked like metallic insects swarmed over a derelict spacecraft. Within minutes, the vessel was completely hollow, its hull intact but everything inside simply gone. The bioweapons had literally eaten the ship from the inside out, leaving behind a perfect shell. Hayes leaned slightly toward Morrison and whispered, "They're showing off. None of these demonstrations prove their weapons would work against our actual defenses." Morrison nodded, slightly but said nothing. The human delegation had brought only basic specifications for their railgun systems, nothing that would reveal their true capabilities. What the aliens were seeing represented technology that was already 10 years out of date, the real weapons. Aboard humanity's newest warships were far more advanced than anything in their presentation materials. Crix Val gestured to the other council members with one of his crystal appendages. Based on our review of human military technology, we offer Earth protectorate status within the Galactic Defense Alliance. Your people would serve as maintenance crews and support personnel for our combined fleets. This arrangement would provide protection for your homeworld while allowing your species to contribute meaningfully to galactic security. The translation software made Crix Val's words sound polite and reasonable, but Morrison could hear the condescension underneath. The aliens were offering humanity the chance to be janitors and mechanics for their real military forces. It was better than outright rejection, but not by much. "We appreciate the Council's consideration," Morrison replied carefully. "However, Earth's government sent us here to request full membership in the Alliance, including equal participation in military, operations, and strategic planning. We believe our weapons technology, while different from yours, offers unique advantages that would benefit the combined fleet." Theskar made a sound that might have been laughter if reptiles could laugh. "Your confidence is admirable, but misplaced. Human. Kinetic weapons have been obsolete for over 1,000 years in galactic warfare. Energy-based systems and bioorganic alternatives provide far superior firepower and tactical flexibility. Perhaps we could arrange a demonstration," Hayes suggested. "Our newest railgun systems might surprise you with their effectiveness." Queen Zach's mandibles clicked rapidly. Definitely laughter this time. "Demonstrations are unnecessary. We have seen the specifications for your most advanced systems. Simple mathematics proves their limitations compared to modern weaponry." Morrison felt the meeting slipping away from them. The aliens had already made up their minds before the human delegation even arrived. This was not a negotiation, but a formality, a way for the Council to show they had considered humanity's request before rejecting it. "The Council votes to offer Earth protectorate status," Crix Val announced. "This is a generous offer considering your technological limitations. We suggest you accept gracefully." Morrison straightened his shoulders and looked up at the towering alien representatives. "I thank the Council for their time and consideration. Earth will need to discuss this offer with our government before making any commitments. We will be in touch." Hayes fell into step beside Morrison as they walked toward the chamber exit. Behind them, she could hear the aliens already discussing other matters, their attention moving on to more important business. The human delegation had been dismissed like children who had interrupted adult conversations. As the chamber doors closed behind them, Morrison finally allowed his diplomatic mask to slip. His expression hardened as he turned to Hayes. "Get me a secure communication link to Earth," he said quietly. "It's time to show these aliens what human weapons can really do." Commander Ben Parker stood on the observation deck of the orbital construction facility and watched humanity's true military power take shape. 6 months had passed since the humiliating meeting at Nexus Prime, and Earth had not been idle. The hidden world of Kepler 442b housed the most advanced shipyards in human space, protected by layers of stealth technology that kept them invisible to alien surveillance systems. The UES Thunderstrike floated in the construction bay below, nearly complete after 2 years of secret development. The massive warship looked nothing like the vessels humanity had shown to the Galactic Council. Where those ships had been functional but unremarkable, the Thunderstrike was a masterpiece of human engineering. Her hull gleamed with exotic alloys that could absorb and redirect energy weapons, while her internal structure housed power systems that would make alien engineers weep with envy. Dr. Amy Chen approached Parker with a tablet displaying the latest test results from the ship's primary weapons systems. She was young for her position as lead weapons engineer, barely 35, but her understanding of railgun technology was unmatched in human space. Her team had solved problems that had plagued magnetic acceleration weapons for decades. "The quantum tunneling capacitors are performing beyond our most optimistic projections," Chen reported, her voice filled with barely contained excitement. "We can now store enough energy to fire the main railgun at full power 12 times before needing to recharge. The antimatter power cores provide more than enough energy to maintain continuous fire for extended engagements." Parker nodded as he studied the data on Chen's tablet. The numbers were impressive, almost beyond belief. Their new railgun systems could accelerate tungsten-uranium slugs to 15% of light speed, giving each projectile the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon. More importantly, they could do it repeatedly without the massive recharge, times that had limited earlier designs. "What about accuracy at maximum range?" Parker asked. "Perfect within acceptable margins," Chen replied. "The magnetic guidance systems can adjust projectile trajectory even after firing. We can hit targets up to 3 light minutes away with 98% accuracy. The aliens won't even see the shots coming until it's too late." Lieutenant Roy Kim hurried across the observation deck, his face grim as he clutched a datapad containing the latest intelligence reports. Kim ran the military's alien monitoring program, tracking communication intercepts and movement patterns throughout known space. His team had been working around the clock since the Nexus Prime meeting, watching for signs of hostile action. "Commander, we have a problem," Kim announced as he reached Parker and Chen. "Vorthak fleet movements suggest they're planning something big. Long-range sensors have detected over 200 warships gathering in the Proxima system. That's 3 times their normal patrol strength in that sector." Parker felt his stomach drop. Proxima was only 2 jumps away from humanity's outer colonies, close enough for a rapid strike mission. The Vorthak had a reputation for settling disputes through overwhelming force, and their recent fleet buildup suggested they were preparing to teach humanity a lesson about rejecting galactic authority. "Any indication of their target?" Parker asked. Kim nodded grimly. "Intercepted communications mention Rigel Colony specifically. They consider our refusal to accept protectorate status as rebellion against galactic order. The Vorthak Fleet Commander, General Thess Carr, apparently requested permission to conduct a police action against human territories." Chen looked between the 2 men with growing alarm. "Rigel Colony has over 3 million civilians. Their defenses are minimal, just a few patrol ships and some automated defense platforms. They can't stand against a Vorthak battle fleet." Parker studied the intelligence data on Kim's pad, his mind racing through tactical possibilities. Traditional military doctrine would call for evacuation and diplomatic protests. The smart move would be to negotiate, perhaps accept the protectorate, status in exchange for Vorthak protection. But Parker had other ideas. "Activate Protocol 7, he ordered quietly. Both Kim and Chen stared at him in shock. Protocol 7 was humanity's most classified military operation, known only to a handful of senior officers. It called for the immediate deployment of Earth's entire secret fleet in a coordinated demonstration of human military capabilities. Once activated, there would be no turning back. "Sir, are you certain?" Kim asked. "Protocol 7 means revealing everything we've built here. The aliens will know we've been hiding our true capabilities. They're going to find out anyway when they attack Rigel," Parker replied. "Better to control how that revelation happens than let them discover it by accident." Captain Susan Blake materialized on the observation deck as her holographic transmission activated. She was commanding the advanced scout ship UES Falcon somewhere in deep space, gathering intelligence on alien fleet movements. Her face looked tired from weeks of constant patrol duty, but her eyes were sharp with focus. "Commander Parker, I'm transmitting tactical data on the Vorthak formation," Blake reported. "They're using standard battle doctrine, plasma cannons, at maximum range, followed by close-quarters combat with boarding parties. Their ships are heavily armored but rely entirely on energy shields for protection." "Perfect," Chen muttered. "Energy shields are useless against kinetic projectiles. Our Railguns will punch right through them. Blake's image flickered slightly as her ship's communication array struggled to maintain the long-range connection. There's something else, sir. The Vorthak aren't taking this seriously. Intercepted chatter suggests they view this as a training exercise, a chance to blood their junior officers against primitive human forces. They expect the battle to last maybe an hour. Parker smiled grimly. The Vorthak arrogance would work in humanity's favor. An overconfident enemy was more likely to make tactical mistakes, to underestimate their opponents until it was too late to recover. The reptilian warriors were about to learn a harsh lesson about human ingenuity. "Captain Blake, return to Fleet Rendezvous Point Alpha," Parker ordered. "All ships are to converge on Rigel system immediately. We'll show the galaxy what human weapons can really accomplish." Kim activated his communication console and began transmitting coded messages to ships throughout human space. Within hours, every vessel in humanity's secret fleet would receive their orders. The UES Thunderstrike and her sister ships would jump to Rigel system and prepare for the first real test of human military technology against alien forces. Dr. Chen pulled up tactical projections on her tablet, showing estimated battle outcomes based on their weapons' capabilities. The numbers were encouraging, but she knew that real combat was unpredictable. Their railgun systems had performed perfectly in testing, but they had never faced actual enemy fire from alien weapons. "How long until the Vorthak fleet reaches Rigel?" Chen asked. 18 hours, Kim replied after checking his latest intelligence updates. "They're taking their time, probably want to arrive during the colony's daylight hours for maximum psychological impact." Parker watched the Thunderstrike's construction crews working frantically to complete final systems checks. The ship would be ready for combat within 12 hours, cutting their preparation time dangerously close, but there was no choice now. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, building weapons and ships in secret while presenting a facade of primitive technology to the galaxy. "Signal the other construction facilities," Parker ordered. "Every ship that can fly is to be made combat-ready immediately. We're about to announce humanity's presence on the galactic stage in a way no one will ever forget." The construction facility hummed with activity as thousands of technicians worked to prepare the human fleet for battle. In less than a day, the Vorthak would learn that Earth's railgun technology was far more advanced than anyone suspected. The demonstration at Rigel Colony would either establish humanity as a major galactic power or result in the complete destruction of their military forces. Parker looked out at the stars visible through the facility's transparent aluminum windows. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations continued to view humanity as a minor species with obsolete weapons. That perception was about to change dramatically. General Theskar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Burning Talon, and surveyed the Rigel system with satisfaction. The human colony hung like a blue marble against the darkness of space, its 3 million inhabitants completely unaware of their approaching doom. Around him, 200 Vorthak warships held perfect formation, their plasma weapons charged and ready for the coming demonstration of galactic authority. The reptilian commander had been looking forward to this mission for months. Humans had shown dangerous arrogance by rejecting the Council's generous offer of protectorate status. Such rebellion could not be allowed to spread to other minor species, or the entire galactic order would collapse into chaos. A swift, decisive action would remind everyone of their proper place in the hierarchy. "Contact the human vessels," Theskar ordered his communication officer. His forked tongue flicked out as he spoke, tasting the recycled air of the bridge. The atmosphere was kept deliberately warm and humid to accommodate Vorthak biology, making the bridge feel like a tropical swamp to most other species. 3 small human ships orbited Rigel Colony, their designs unremarkable compared to Vorthak engineering. The largest vessel was barely a quarter the size of the Burning Talon, and their energy signatures suggested primitive fusion power systems. This would be easier than Theskar had expected. Admiral Jake Morrison's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression calm despite facing overwhelming odds. Behind him, the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike looked cramped and utilitarian compared to the spacious command center of the Vorthak flagship. Theskar noted with amusement that the human actually seemed confident. "General Theskar," Morrison said politely, "I assume you're here to discuss the Council's protectorate offer. We're prepared to negotiate." Theskar's laugh was a harsh hissing sound that echoed through the bridge. "There will be no negotiation, human. Your species refused the Council's generosity, and now you must face the consequences. Surrender your ships immediately and prepare for occupation." "I'm afraid that's not possible," Morrison replied. "However, I'll give you one chance to withdraw peacefully. Leave this system now, and no blood needs to be shed today." The audacity of the statement left Theskar momentarily speechless. A human, commanding 3 tiny ships against a massive battle fleet, was offering him the chance to retreat. The general's yellow eyes blazed with fury as he leaned forward in his command chair. "You dare threaten us?" Theskar snarled. "Your primitive weapons are no match for Vorthak military technology. Prepare to die with honor if humans possess such a concept." The communication channel closed, and Theskar immediately ordered his fleet to attack positions. 200 plasma cannons swiveled toward the human vessels, their focusing arrays glowing with barely contained energy. Each weapon could vaporize a city block with a single shot, and the combined firepower of the fleet could glass an entire planet. "All ships, open fire!" Theskar commanded. Brilliant green beams lanced across space, each one carrying enough energy to melt through meters of reinforced armor. The Vorthak had perfected plasma weaponry over centuries of warfare, creating weapons that could cut through any known defensive system. Their targeting computers were precise enough to disable specific ship components without destroying the entire vessel, allowing for captures when necessary. But the human ships were no longer where the plasma beams struck. With impossible agility, the 3 vessels danced between the incoming fire, twisting and turning in ways that should have liquefied their crews. The Thunderstrike rolled completely over while accelerating at forces that exceeded safe limits, while her escort ships performed equally impossible maneuvers. Captain Helen Price sat at the weapons station aboard the Thunderstrike, her hands steady on the firing controls despite the violent evasive maneuvers. The ship's revolutionary inertial dampening system kept the crew from feeling the brutal acceleration forces, but she could see the external displays showing how close some of the plasma beams had come to hitting them. "Evasive pattern 7, Morrison ordered from the captain's chair. "Time to show them what human engineering can accomplish." The Thunderstrike's main railgun was already charged and ready to fire. Price had been waiting for this moment since the secret weapons program began, the chance to test their technology against real alien defenses. Her targeting computer locked onto the burning Talon, calculating trajectory and timing with inhuman precision. "Target acquired, sir," Price reported. "Flagship center mass, optimal impact angle." Morrison studied the tactical display showing the Vorthak fleet positions. The enemy formation was textbook perfect, designed to maximize plasma weapon effectiveness while protecting their command ship. Unfortunately for them, human tactics had evolved beyond anything in their strategic databases. "Fire," Morrison ordered quietly. Price pressed the firing stud, and the Thunderstrike's main railgun discharged with a sound like thunder. The tungsten uranium slug accelerated down the ship's entire length, gaining velocity as magnetic fields grabbed it and hurled it forward. By the time it left the barrel, the projectile was traveling at 15% of light speed. The slug crossed the distance between ships in less than a second, moving too fast for Vorthak sensors to track effectively. Theskar had just enough time to see a brief flash on his tactical display before the projectile struck his flagship's shield generators. The energy barriers that protected the burning Talon were designed to deflect or absorb plasma beams, not solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The shields collapsed instantly under the kinetic impact, offering no more resistance than tissue paper. The slug punched through the ship's armor plating like it wasn't there, through 17 decks of compartments and corridors, through the antimatter containment system that powered the vessel's weapons. The burning Talon didn't explode in the traditional sense. When the railgun slug ruptured the antimatter storage pods, the flagship simply ceased to exist. Matter and antimatter annihilated each other in a burst of pure energy that outshone the system's sun for several seconds. The explosion vaporized 3 nearby ships instantly and sent shockwaves rippling through the Vorthak formation. Silence filled the communication channels as alien crews struggled to comprehend what they had witnessed. Their most advanced flagship, protected by shields that could withstand plasma bombardment for hours, had been erased from existence by a single projectile. The weapon that accomplished this feat had appeared primitive by galactic standards. Captain Lisa Hayes monitored alien communications from her position at the Thunderstrike's intelligence station. The Vorthak fleet channels were filled with confused chatter as ship commanders tried to understand how their flagship had been destroyed so easily. Several vessels were already requesting permission to withdraw from the engagement. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation," Hayes reported. "They're trying to establish maximum firing range while maintaining defensive positions." Morrison nodded grimly. The Vorthak response was tactically sound but ultimately useless. Human railgun systems had effective ranges measured in light minutes, far beyond anything alien weapons could match. The enemy fleet was trapped in a kill zone they didn't even realize existed. "Signal our escort ships," Morrison ordered. "Pattern, Delta, maximum dispersion. Let's show them what a real space battle looks like." The 3 human vessels separated and began their attack run on the Vorthak fleet. Their railgun systems fired continuously, each shot perfectly aimed at critical target areas. Enemy ships that had seemed invincible moments before began disappearing in flashes of annihilated matter as their power systems were breached. Theskar was dead, vaporized along with his flagship and command staff. The Vorthak second-in-command tried desperately to coordinate a response, but human weapons were destroying ships faster than he could track the losses. Within minutes, the mighty fleet that had come to punish rebellious humans was scattered and broken. Some Vorthak vessels attempted to flee, but human ships were faster and more maneuverable. Others tried to close to plasma weapon range only, to be picked off by railgun fire before they could get close enough to return fire effectively. The technology gap that had seemed to favor the aliens had reversed completely. When the battle ended 2 hours later, not a single Vorthak ship remained operational. Some had been destroyed outright, while others were disabled and drifting. The 3 human vessels had suffered only minor damage from a few lucky plasma hits that their armor had easily absorbed. Morrison looked out at the debris field that had once been a proud alien battle fleet. The demonstration was over, and humanity had announced their true capabilities to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. Soon, every species in known space would learn that human railgun technology was far more advanced than anyone had suspected. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of receiving the first reports from Rigel Colony. Crix Val materialized in his assigned chamber aboard Nexus Prime, his crystalline form reflecting the harsh lighting as he studied the combat recordings with growing disbelief. The footage showed the complete destruction of the Vorthak fleet, 200 warships reduced to scrap metal by 3 human vessels. The Zephyrian delegate had spent the last 6 hours reviewing the tactical data, hoping to find some explanation for the impossible battle results. The humans had claimed their railgun technology was advanced, but the specifications they provided to the Council suggested weapons barely capable of penetrating modern armor. The reality was devastatingly different. Queen Zack clicked her mandibles nervously as she watched the recordings for the 5th time. Her compound eyes tracked the human projectiles as they crossed space at velocities that made interception impossible. The bioorganic weapons that had seemed so advanced weeks earlier were useless against enemies who could destroy ships from light minutes away. "The human projectiles are traveling at 15% of light speed," Crix Val announced to the assembled delegates. Our defensive systems were designed for energy weapons and bioorganic threats. None of our shields can withstand kinetic impacts at those velocities. The representative from the Aquarian Federation, Admiral Coral Song, studied the tactical readouts with professional interest. Her people had remained neutral in most galactic conflicts, but the sudden shift in military power demanded careful consideration. The humans had just demonstrated the ability to destroy any known warship with a single shot. "How many vessels do the humans possess?" Coral Song asked. "If their entire fleet consists of only these 3 ships, we may be overreacting to an isolated incident." Before anyone could answer, new reports arrived from across the galaxy. Human ships were appearing in systems throughout known space, their designs far more advanced than anything previously observed. Intelligence networks that had monitored Earth for decades reported massive hidden shipyards and weapons facilities that had somehow escaped detection. The truth was becoming clear to the council members. Humanity had deliberately concealed their true military capabilities, presenting obsolete technology while secretly developing weapons that could threaten the entire galactic order. The species they had dismissed as primitive had been planning for this moment for years. Ambassador Carl Stone entered the council chamber with a confidence that would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. He carried himself like a representative of a major power, not the desperate petitioner who had begged for protectorate status. Behind him walked a full diplomatic team, their uniforms bearing insignia that suggested military ranks the council had never seen before. "Honored delegates," Stone began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "I bring greetings from Earth and an invitation to join the newly formed Human Protection Compact. Membership offers guaranteed security against hostile forces and access to advanced defensive technologies." The subtle threat in Stone's words was impossible to miss. Humanity was no longer requesting admission to existing power structures. They were creating their own alliance and inviting others to join them. The implication was clear: align with humanity, or face the same fate as the Vorthak. Crix Val studied the human ambassador with newfound respect and fear. The crystalline being had dismissed Stone during their previous meeting, treating him like a representative of an irrelevant minor species. Now the positions were reversed, with humanity holding the advantage in any negotiation. "What guarantees can you offer regarding the peaceful intentions of human forces?" Crix Val asked carefully. "Your recent demonstration at Rigel was quite violent." Stone's expression remained diplomatically neutral, but his eyes hardened slightly. "The Vorthak fleet came to Rigel Colony with hostile intent, planning to attack civilian populations. Human forces responded appropriately to protect innocent lives. We will always defend ourselves and our allies against aggression." Queen Zizak leaned forward in her section of the chamber, her multiple arms gesturing as she spoke. "Your weapons. Technology appears to make traditional defenses obsolete. How can any species feel secure knowing that human ships can destroy our vessels without warning?" "Security comes through alliance, not opposition," Stone replied smoothly. "Members of the Human Protection Compact will receive defensive railgun platforms for their home systems. These installations can protect entire worlds from invasion fleets, regardless of their size or technology." The offer was tempting and terrifying, in equal measure. Human defensive systems could indeed protect member worlds from attack, but they would also give humanity strategic control over those same systems. Any species that accepted the offer would become dependent on human technology and goodwill for their continued survival. Captain Dan Rivers received his promotion to Admiral during a brief ceremony aboard the UES Thunderstrike, now serving as flagship for humanity's expanded fleet. Intelligence reports flooded in from across the galaxy as species after species reconsidered their strategic positions in light of the new military reality. The Vorthak hegemony had effectively ceased to exist as a political entity. With their primary fleet destroyed and their military leadership dead, member worlds were declaring independence or requesting human protection. Several Vorthak colonies had already petitioned to join the Human Protection Compact, abandoning their former allegiance entirely. Rivers studied the tactical reports with satisfaction mixed with concern. Humanity's victory at Rigel had been complete, but it also revealed the true extent of their technological advancement to potential enemies. Other species would now begin developing countermeasures specifically designed to stop railgun projectiles. "Admiral, we're receiving a priority communication from Earth Command," his communication officer announced. "Intelligence suggests the Zephyrian Empire is mobilizing their Grand Armada." Rivers felt his stomach tighten. The Zephyrians controlled the largest fleet in known space, over 1,000 ships equipped with experimental quantum weapons that existed partially outside normal space-time. If any alien force could challenge human railgun technology, it would be the Crystalline Empire's most advanced vessels. Dr. Amy Chen materialized via holographic projection, transmitting from the research facility on Kepler 442b. Her team had been working around the clock to analyze captured Vorthak technology and develop improved human weapon systems. The information she brought was both encouraging and disturbing. "We've made significant improvements to our railgun velocity," Chen reported. "The new Mark 7 systems can accelerate projectiles to 18% of light speed. However, analysis of Zephyrian quantum weapons suggests they might be able to phase their ships partially out of normal space-time. Our kinetic projectiles might pass right through them without causing damage." Rivers nodded grimly. The technological arms race was accelerating as each species scrambled to adapt to the new reality. Humanity's window of absolute advantage was closing rapidly, and their next battle might not be as one-sided as the encounter at Rigel. "How long until the Zephyrian fleet reaches combat positions?" Rivers asked. "Intelligence estimates 6 weeks, Chen replied. "They're taking time to retrofit their ships with the experimental quantum phase technology. The system has never been tested in actual combat conditions. The human fleet dispersed across multiple systems, establishing defensive positions while continuing to recruit new allies. Minor species that had never received attention from major powers suddenly found themselves courted by human diplomats offering protection and advanced technology in exchange for alliance agreements. The Hive Swarm Collective, Queen Zack species, quietly opened negotiations with human representatives. Their bioorganic weapons might be useless against railgun technology, but their manufacturing capabilities could support human expansion throughout the galaxy. Similar discussions began with dozens of other species as the old power structures crumbled. Admiral Morrison, now commanding the overall human fleet from his new flagship UES Dominion, watched the political transformation with careful attention. Humanity had gained military supremacy through superior technology, but maintaining that advantage would require careful diplomacy and continued innovation. The galaxy was reshaping itself around humanity's demonstrated power, but Rivers knew their greatest challenges lay ahead. The Zephyrian Grand Armada represented the most advanced military force in known space, equipped with weapons that might neutralize human advantages. The next battle would determine whether humanity's rise to galactic dominance was permanent, or merely a brief moment before their inevitable fall. In the depths of space, alien fleets moved toward predetermined positions while human ships prepared for what might be the most important battle in galactic history. The age of human technological supremacy was about to face its first real test. The Vega system became the stage for the greatest space battle in galactic history as the Zephyrian Grand Armada faced humanity's combined fleet. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Dominion, watching 1,000 crystalline ships arrange themselves in perfect formation. Each Zephyrian vessel sparkled like a cut diamond against the darkness of space, their hulls reflecting starlight in brilliant patterns that would have been beautiful under different circumstances. Crix Val commanded the alien fleet from his flagship, the Crystalline Dawn, a massive vessel that dwarfed even the largest human ships. The flagship was powered by a captured miniature star, its exotic matter containment systems providing enough energy to operate weapons that could theoretically unmake matter at the subatomic level. Quantum phase barriers surrounded each ship, existing partially outside normal spacetime to provide protection against conventional weapons. The human fleet numbered only 50 ships, but each vessel represented the pinnacle of Earth's military technology. The UES Thunderstrike and her sister ships had been refitted with the latest Mark 7 railgun systems, capable of accelerating projectiles to 18% of light speed. Dr. Amy Chen's engineering teams had worked continuously for weeks, pushing human weapons technology to its absolute limits. Captain Helen Price monitored the tactical displays from her position aboard the Thunderstrike, watching as Zephyrian ships tested their quantum phase systems. The crystalline vessels flickered in and out of normal spacetime, becoming translucent ghosts that conventional sensors could barely detect. It was an impressive defensive system, but Price suspected it had weaknesses that alien engineers hadn't considered. Enemy fleet is charging. They're quantum weapons, Price reported to Morrison through the fleet communication network. Energy readings suggest they can fire in approximately 3 minutes. Morrison studied the enemy formation with experienced eyes. The Zephyrians had arranged their ships in a sphere around the human fleet, intending to engage from all directions, simultaneously. It was a sound tactical decision that would prevent the humans from concentrating their fire on a single section of enemy ships. Lieutenant Roy Kim transmitted intelligence updates from his position aboard the UES Falcon. His team had been monitoring Zephyrian communications for weeks, learning about their experimental weapon systems and tactical doctrines. The information they gathered would be crucial for the coming battle. The quantum weapons require significant charge time between shots, Kim reported. Approximately 4 minutes to full power, but they can fire partial strength beams every 90 seconds. The weapons work by disrupting atomic bonds at the quantum level, essentially dissolving matter they contact. The first Zephyrian attack began without warning as beams of pure quantum energy lanced across space toward the human fleet. The weapons looked like streams of liquid light, beautiful and deadly as they reached out to touch their targets. Several human ships suffered critical damage as sections of their hulls simply vanished where the beams struck them. The UES Monitor took a direct hit to her port engine section, the quantum beam dissolving 30 meters of armor and internal structure in seconds. Emergency bulkheads sealed automatically, but the ship was effectively crippled. Other vessels reported similar damage as the alien weapons proved devastatingly effective against conventional matter. Morrison watched his fleet take damage and realized that humanity's technological advantage was not as overwhelming as he had hoped. The Zephyrian quantum weapons could destroy human ships just as effectively as railguns destroyed alien vessels. This would be a battle between roughly equal forces, decided by tactics and timing rather than pure technological supremacy. All ships, execute Pattern Omega, Morrison ordered through the fleet communication system. Concentrate fire on grid coordinates 77 Alpha. Pattern Omega was humanity's most complex tactical formation, designed specifically for this type of engagement. Instead of targeting individual enemy ships, the human fleet would focus their fire on a single point in space, using overwhelming, kinetic force to break through Zephyrian defenses. The Thunderstrike and 49 other human ships turned their railgun systems toward the center of the enemy formation, where Crix Val's flagship held position. Targeting computers calculated precise firing solutions, while power systems channeled massive amounts of energy into magnetic acceleration coils. The coordinated attack would require perfect timing to be effective. Dr. Chen monitored the charging sequence from her position aboard the research vessel UES Innovation. Her teams had developed new targeting algorithms specifically for this battle, using quantum mechanics calculations to predict where phased enemy ships would materialize. The mathematics were complex, but the basic principle was simple. Even quantum-phased matter had to exist somewhere in space-time. Firing solution locked, Price announced as her targeting computer completed its calculations. "All ships report ready to fire." Morrison took a deep breath and gave the order that would determine humanity's fate in the galaxy. All ships, fire. 50 railgun systems discharged simultaneously, sending tungsten uranium slugs screaming across space at 18% of light speed. The projectiles were invisible to conventional sensors, traveling too fast for organic eyes to track. Only sophisticated computer systems could follow their progress as they converged on the designated target area. Crix Val had just enough time to realize what was happening before the human projectiles reached his flagship. The quantum phase barriers that protected the crystalline dawn were designed to deflect energy weapons and conventional kinetic projectiles. They had never been tested against 50 simultaneous impacts from relativistic slugs. The first projectile collapsed the phase barriers, forcing the flagship back into normal space-time. The second slug punched through the ship's crystalline hull, while the third penetrated the exotic matter containment system that powered the vessel's weapons. The remaining 47 projectiles turned the massive flagship into an expanding cloud of vaporized crystal and exotic particles. The explosion of the crystalline dawn sent shockwaves rippling through the Zephyrian formation as exotic matter mixed with normal spacetime in ways that violated several laws of physics. Nearby ships were caught in cascading quantum effects that destabilized their own phase barriers, forcing them back into normal space where human weapons could target them effectively. Panic spread through the alien fleet as ship commanders realized their most advanced defensive systems were useless against coordinated human attacks. The quantum phase technology that had seemed revolutionary was revealed as a fatal weakness when used against opponents who understood its limitations. Captain Susan Blake, now commanding the destroyer UES Lightning, led her squadron in pursuit of fleeing Zephyrian vessels. Many alien ships attempted to escape to hyperspace, but human vessels were already positioned at the jump points. The battle that was supposed to restore Zephyrian dominance had become a complete rout. Admiral Coral Song of the Aquarian Federation watched the battle unfold from her neutral position at the edge of the system. Her government had sent her to observe the engagement and report on its outcome, but she found herself witnessing the end of an era. The Zephyrian Empire, dominant for over 1,000 years, was being destroyed by a species that had been dismissed as primitive only months earlier. The Grand Armada that had seemed invincible hours earlier was scattered and broken within 6 hours of the first shot. Some ships surrendered immediately, while others fought desperately until their quantum weapons were overwhelmed by human railgun fire. By the end of the day, not a single Zephyrian vessel remained operational. Morrison stood in the observation lounge of the UES Dominion, looking out at the debris field that had once been the galaxy's most powerful fleet. The victory was complete, but he felt no satisfaction in the destruction. Thousands of alien lives had been lost because their leaders chose war over diplomacy. Ambassador Carl Stone transmitted a message to every government in known space, announcing the formation of the Terran Galactic Republic with humanity as the dominant partner. The old Galactic Council was dissolved, replaced by a new organization that reflected the military reality of human supremacy. Within weeks, former enemies were requesting membership in the human-led alliance. The Vorthak hegemony no longer existed, its member worlds having joined the Terran Republic for protection. The Zephyrian Empire fragmented into dozens of smaller states, each eager to sign non-aggression pacts with their new human neighbors. Dr. Chen began sharing defensive railgun technology with allied species, but the systems required human technicians to maintain and operate. Within a year, human military advisors were stationed throughout the galaxy, ensuring that the new balance of power remained stable under Earth's guidance. 3 months after the Battle of Vega, Morrison visited the memorial wall at Rigel Colony, where the names of human casualties were inscribed in black stone. Despite their overwhelming victories, humanity had paid a price for galactic dominance. The memorial served as a reminder that even advanced technology could not prevent all losses in war. Captain Julie West, Morrison's new aide, approached with the latest intelligence reports from the galactic rim. Long-range sensors had detected